Welcome to our podcast discussion on fire alarm systems and detection requirements. We're diving into the nitty gritty details today, covering everything from assembly occupancies to specialized requirements across various occupancy groups.
I'm excited about this. So, we're talking about how fire alarm and smoke detection systems vary based on occupancy load and building type, right?
Exactly, it's like the code really differentiates systems depending on the occupant load. For instance, in Group A, if you have 299 occupants or less, you have a dedicated sprinkler monitoring function per NFPA 72. And then, as soon as you hit 300 occupants or more, you need a manual fire alarm system with pull stations that activate the occupant notification systems, like horns or strobes.
Mm-hmm, right. And then it escalates further for really large spaces, correct? Like if there are 1,000 occupants or more, there's an emphasis on emergency voice and alarm communication systems.
Exactly. And for spaces with 10,000 or more, you even need a public address system with emergency backup power. It's kind of fascinating how scalable the systems become based on the number of occupants.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for facilities with an approved automatic sprinkler system, they only need one manual pull station in an AHJ-approved area? That seems more efficient, right?
Right, that's a recurring exception across several occupancy groups. Essentially, if the sprinkler system, specifically with water flow activating the occupant notification, is installed and approved, then only one pull station must be provided. It's a neat integration of automatic and manual activation.
What about the UL 268 automatic smoke detection requirements? They seem to crop up consistently across the different groups.
Yes, indeed. They specify that system smoke detectors need to be placed above control panels, power supplies for elevator capture, on HVAC units with over 2000 CFM for releasing service, fire smoke dampers, and delayed egress locks. That's the baseline for many occupancy types, whether Group A, B, E, F, H, or the various institutional groups.
I follow. It's interesting how, regardless of the occupancy type, these 6 applications are core. But then, each group adds additional specifications, like the audible requirements.
Right. Audibility for fire alarms is very well defined. In public mode, you need either 15 dB above the average ambient sound or 5 dB above the maximum sound level for a minute, whichever is greater. And private mode drops that requirement a bit to 10 dB above the average ambient sound.
Yep, exactly. And what about the sleeping area audibility? I've seen some numbers thrown around there too.
Absolutely. Sleeping areas require either 15 dB above average ambient sound or 5 dB above the maximum sound level, or a minimum of 75 dB for at least 60 seconds, whichever is greater. So there's an increased need for clarity in areas that are sensitive or
Right,
critical,
that makes total sense.
like bedrooms.
Now, switching gears a little, how do things differ for Group B occupancies, the business environments?
Good point. In Group B, a manual fire alarm system is required if the combined occupant load reaches 500 or if the numbers are more than 100 above or below the lowest exit discharge level, or if there's an ambulatory care facility within the fire area. Also, Group B follows similar UL 268 detection rules. It's like a tailored approach considering the variability in business spaces.
So in Group B, there's a bit more nuance, especially with ambulatory care mixed in.
Exactly, and if an ambulatory care facility is present, an electronically supervised smoke detection system is required throughout the area. But then again, if you have an automatic sprinkler system activating the occupant notification, you can sometimes skip the electronically supervised smoke detectors.
Interesting, I see what you mean. And what about educational occupancies, Group B? They always have those, particular exceptions.
Right. Group E, which is education, mandates a manual fire alarm system that triggers an emergency voice alarm comm system. However, for smaller occupancies, under 50 or 100 persons, certain requirements can be waived. Plus, there are exceptions when interior corridors and some spaces are already protected by smoke or heat detectors.
I got that. There's a logical progression, from larger spaces needing full intervention down to smaller spaces with exceptions, right?
Yes, it's all about risk and occupant density. And then for Group F, factories. The system is monitored per the 2021 IFC. It requires a manual fire alarm system that activates alarms if the facility is 2 or more stories high and has an occupant load of 500 or more. It's a simple threshold-based design.
Yeah, that's pretty clear. Now I noticed Group H, the hazardous occupancy, has additional requirements for organic coatings and highly toxic gases. Could you elaborate on that?
Sure. In Group H, you mandate a manual fire alarm system for H5 classifications, areas with hazardous manufacturing. They also specify an automatic smoke detection system for areas with highly toxic gases, organic peroxides, or oxidizers. It's a more critical scenario since toxicity elevates risk dramatically.
Absolutely, makes sense. One thing I'd like to challenge, though. Do you really think the reliance on manual pull stations for notification is always ideal? I mean, with buildings being so large, wouldn't it be risky to depend on a manual system?
That's a fair critique. I mean, in theory, manual pull stations add that human element, which, if bypassed or if a person is incapacitated, can be a single point of failure. However, the code does allow exceptions when an automatic sprinkler system with water flow activation is present. It's like a redundancy model, but honestly, sometimes I'd prefer more automation where it
exactly.
makes sense.
Now shifting over to institutional occupancies, like the various Group I cases, how do these requirements get adapted?
In the Group I series, which covers healthcare, nursing homes, and other institutional environments, there is a fine balance between manual and automatic systems. For example, in Group I1, you have manual pull stations, along with automatic smoke detection, but there are exceptions in sleeping units if pull boxes are conveniently located. For I2, particularly in nursing homes and hospitals, corridor smoke detection is key, but can be waived under certain conditions, like if door-closing devices with integral detectors are used.
That's detailed. It seems like the system really encourages a layered defense, with both supervisory and activation elements ensuring safety.
Exactly. And then we have Group I3 and I4, where, again, manual fire alarm push points are integrated with automatic detection systems. They incorporate visual and audible alerts, especially in sensitive environments like long-term care facilities, where sometimes audible signals in patient areas are replaced by visible strobes to avoid causing distress.
Right, that's a delicate balance indeed. Speaking of visual signals, what about the audible requirements? They seem pretty universal.
They are. For all these systems, the public mode requires at least 15 dB above ambient noise or 5 dB above the peak for a sustained 60 seconds, and private mode typically needs 10 dB above ambient. On sleeping areas, you either stick to those or hit a minimum of 75 dB. This is critical, especially
Yes,
for
very technical,
residences
but
in
essential.
Group R occupancies.
Now, moving on to Group R1 and Group R2, responsible for residential. There's also a mention of specialized requirements like 520 Hz sounders in sleeping areas. What's the rationale there?
Right. The idea is that in residential or dorm-like environments, you need low-frequency sounders to be felt as well as heard. A tone like 520 Hz works well because it's less likely to be confused with ambient noises and can penetrate sleeping spaces effectively. Also, for high-rise applications, where the occupied floors are more than 75 feet above, the emergency voice communication system is set up to ensure that even in a tall building, the alert reaches every
absolutely.
corner.
And then there's also the part about being pre-wired for future adaptability, especially in R2 occupancies. That's really forward-thinking.
Yes, it's like planning for a future-proof design. When you pre-wire for potential conversions to accessible units, you're saving a lot of hassle later. The code explicitly calls for a conduit raceway or the necessary cabling.
Right, that's smart planning. What do you make of the complexities added for college and university buildings, the Group R2 specific to that sector?
For Group R2 in educational settings, they may require a dedicated function sprinkler monitoring system if there are 7 or more sprinkler heads. Plus, the installation of an automatic smoke detection system that's integrated with the occupant notification keeps the environment safe in large multi-unit buildings. It's really a specialized adaptation for campuses.
Yep, that sounds about right. And lastly, what about Group M, the mercantile. The requirements there seem to hinge on occupant load thresholds as well.
Exactly. For Group M, if the occupant load is 500 or more, or if it's more than 100 persons beyond the lowest level of exit discharge, you need a manual fire alarm system that activates the occupant notification system. There are exceptions too, like in open mall buildings, where if they comply with specific sections of the IBC, manual pull stations might not be required.
Interesting nuance. It's incredible how these codes are tailored for every occupancy type, ensuring both safety and practicality.
Yep, it's like an intricate puzzle where every piece, from pull station placement to audibility levels, is designed to assure optimum safety while considering the unique context of each building.
Right, absolutely. One last detail. What about the smoke alarms, particularly the single station ones?
Good catch. The code states that single station smoke alarms have to be installed in specific areas, like sleeping areas, corridors adjacent to sleeping units, and on each level, including split levels if necessary. And then there's that detailed table for accessible rooms in R1 occupancies that helps determine the number of visible alarm installations required. It's a detailed roadmap to ensure absolute compliance.
Very precise. It sure is. And overall, these requirements emphasize redundancy and clear communication. But I wonder, sometimes does all this detail get a bit overwhelming in practical building design?
That's a valid point. In practice, designers and building inspectors need a robust management system, almost like a pre-planned checklist to ensure every single detail complies. I'd say, while it may seem overwhelming, it's all geared towards making sure lives are protected. After all, a few extra decibels in audibility or an additional smoke detector can make a huge difference in an emergency.
Exactly, safety comes first. As we wrap up, I must say the interplay between manual and automatic systems across different building types is fascinating.
Absolutely. Is this balance, manual versus automatic, audible versus visible, and the integration with sprinkler systems, that really makes all the difference. Designing systems that can handle everything from a small educational facility to a high-rise residential complex, it's challenging but essential.
Yeah, spot on. And it's clear that these standards not only protect property, but also save lives. The detailed requirements, though complex, are a testament to our commitment to safety and adaptability.
Indeed. And while some may see the regulations as overly intricate, they're there for a reason, ensuring that from a factory setting to an institutional care facility, every nuance is addressed.
Absolutely. Thanks for this engaging breakdown. I've learned a lot about how these varied requirements fit together.
It's been great chatting about it. From understanding the thresholds for occupant loads to the critical details on smoke detection and audibility parameters, there's certainly a lot to unpack. And remember, when it comes to fire safety, every decibel and every sensor counts.
Exactly. Every piece matters. Until next time, keep those safety systems in check and, stay safe out there.